Hey, what's up you guys? It's Tyler and today I have a story time. I'm gonna start a whole series on crazy people that come to my work. I work at a pet store. I work with animals. I'm in pet care, just by the way, in case you're new here. Today I have a crazy story about a tortoise lady. She wanted a tortoise and she went insane and she lost her mind at me. She got my manager involved. Let's get started with this crap. So, I was feeding this tortoise food that I brought from my house because we don't keep vegetables. I don't know if you work at PetSmart, if they actually have vegetables. We don't. So I bring my own because I love this tortoise and I care about this tortoise. I was hand feeding him collard greens and carrots, and this lady comes up and she's like, oh, what? Are you feeding him? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, what are you feeding him? What is that orange stuff? Like, first of all, lady, do you not know what a carrot is? Why is this child is literally pointing at me like this in the parking lot? I'm in the parking lot. She's just like pointing. Okay. Anyways, back to my story. She was like, oh my gosh, what is this? I'm like, it's carrots, ma'am. And she was like, oh, okay. And she was like, oh, I really want him. And I'm like, oh yeah, me too. He's so sweet. He's so cute. And she's like, oh yeah, I want to buy him. And I'm like, what? Like, I get a ton of people every day that are like, I want this animal, but they're not like, oh, I want to buy this animal. She didn't even know what carrots were. So, I don't know. I'm confused. Very confused as to like what's happening right now. I'm like, okay, can you tell me about your setup? Do you have everything set up for him already? And she's like, yeah, I've had tortoises before. And I'm like, okay, how big is your setup? And she's like, 5 feet tall. So I'm like, it's 5 feet tall? Okay, well, how wide is it? And she's like, it's like, I can't do it, but it's probably like as wide as a 10-gallon tank. And I'm like, okay, well, how long is it? And she's like, it's 5 feet long. And I was like, ma'am, you said it was 5 feet tall. So I'm very confused as to what's happening right now. And she was like, yeah, you know, I usually have no problems. Nobody asking me any questions when I buy a tortoise. I buy tortoises here all the time. And I'm like, okay, ma'am, I just have to make sure he's going to a good home, okay? Like, I'm being nice, okay? So I asked her if they have a heat light in UVB, and she's like, yes, I know what I'm doing. I've had tortoises before. I have everything set up. I don't know why you're asking me these questions. I know what I'm doing. And I'm like, okay, ma'am, I just have to ask you about your setup. Repeatedly saying like, hey, I have to ask you about your setup. That's just what I have to do. Why do people blatantly stare at me? I don't know. I'm just talking to myself in my car. It's fine. So then she tells me she has a heat light and UVB. I'm like, okay, it's inside or outside? And she's like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of this question game. I don't like this question game. It's inside. I'm like, okay, ma'am. And she goes off on her rant, like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I'm tired of you asking me questions. Like, I don't know why you're asking me this. Like, she keeps saying this over and over again. So I'm like, okay. And I walk off. I don't even say like, hey, I'm gonna be back. Like, I literally just leave. But I was leaving to go get the paperwork. I just didn't tell her because I'm not dealing with it. Like, I'm tired of this lady. Whatever. And I'm on my radio, because we have radios to like talk to coworkers. And I'm like, oh my god, this lady is crazy. She's yelling at me because I'm asking her questions about her setup for this tortoise. And my managers are like, oh my god, that's a crazy lady. And I'm like, yeah, it's a crazy lady. So I'm getting the box set up. I'm talking to one of the managers about how she's insane. And yeah, we're talking shit about her. You know how it goes. If you're crazy and you're in retail, we're gonna talk crap. Can I speak? We're gonna talk crap about you. That's just how it goes. I'm sorry. What do you expect? You're gonna come in here acting like a crazy person. So anyways, after I talk crap about her and I gather my composure, I bring the box over And I bring the paperwork, and I'm like, oh my god, this lady's crazy. Like, she's probably gonna yell at me that I'm gonna have her sign this thing. So I go over there, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go put the tortoise in the box for you. Can you sign this paper? And she's like, yeah, but I still don't understand, like, why you had to ask me all these questions. It doesn't make sense. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, ma'am. I just had to make sure he's going to a good home. Again, I've said this like 5 times now. Like, how many times do I have to say, like, I'm just doing my job? I don't know. 1,000 times, maybe? Maybe it would have gotten through her head. I don't know. But she fills out the form. She skips the email part, which I was told that, why do you have to stare at me? Literally, both of them staring at me. And I stared right back at them. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it. Why are you doing that? Yeah, where was I? So she didn't put her email, and I was like, could you please put your email? And she was like, no. She threw the paper on the cart that I had for the tortoise. She threw it down, and she was like, no. Keep in mind, her husband is right there. Her husband hasn't said a word to me about anything. I don't know if he was embarrassed or if he just didn't want to be mean to me because he knows that, like, I'm doing my job and that you don't need to be mean to me because I'm just doing my job. He didn't apologize for her or anything, so I don't know. I don't know whose side he was on, but doesn't matter. This crazy lady. So I put the tortoise in the box, and I'm like, all right. I didn't even get to finish my sentence. I was about to say, all right, you're all set. No. I give her part of the paper, and she's like, you know what? I'm so mad. I had to play 51 questions with you. One, I didn't ask 51 questions. I asked probably like 6, 7, which is not enough. Like, if I was with a nice person, I'll probably ask like 20 questions at least. That's like the bare minimum. But this lady was not having it, so I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm not doing it. I can't be bothered with it. I just can't. She's like, you told me all this stuff. I had to play 51 questions with you. I've never had to do this before. You had me ask all these questions, but you didn't even tell me that there's a 2-week return policy. And she kept saying that. She was like, you had to make sure I was doing all this right, but you couldn't even tell me about what's on the contract. First of all, ma'am, I don't have to tell you that there's a 2-week return policy. Like, I don't have to tell you that. It says it on the contract that you signed, that you obviously read because you yelled at me for it. People don't care about the return policy if they can take care of the animal. I'm just saying. Like, you don't care about a return policy if you're actually going to take care of the animal. I mean, obviously, there's people that, like, if your animal gets sick, it's covered. But people aren't stressed out about it if they're actually going to take care of the animal. Anyways, she was yelling at me for that. She said that about 3 times. Like, how could you ask me all these questions but didn't tell me about the 2-week Sorry, I'm mad. I can't speak. But you couldn't tell me about the 2-week return policy. You had to go off with all these questions, but you couldn't tell me about the 2-week return policy. She said it in like 3 different ways. I'm like, okay. And I was about to say, all right, I'm sorry. I just had to make sure the animal was going to a good home, but I couldn't finish that because my manager was right there listening to her yell at me, and she was like, do you have a problem, ma'am? And here I am. I look at her and I'm like, yeah, we're having a problem. And so this lady, she screams at my manager that I asked her questions, which, by the way, that's my job. So she's snitching that I'm doing my job. Thank you. Thank you for letting my manager know that I'm doing my job. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah. She's saying that, like, I asked her a million questions, but I didn't tell her about the return policy. And my manager was like, I got this. I can handle it. And I was like, Thank you. And I ran away from the situation, and I went to go crap talk her on the radio yet again to the other manager that was there, and he was like, oh my god, she is crazy. So I got all my managers on my side. Like, if you're gonna be crazy, just know we don't side with crazy. We just don't. Like, you're gonna get crap talk. I told my mom, I told my coworker that was at home. She likes the drama, so I tell her about the tea that happens at work while she's not there. I told my 2 managers, like, tea spilling everywhere, okay? And while I am sitting at the podium, there's like a pet care podium where like all the paperwork is. I was laughing to myself about how crazy this lady is, and I'm like, oh my god, did that really just happen? Did that really just happen? And I keep looking over because the manager's still talking to her, and I like really want to go over there and like listen to what's happening because it's funny. Okay, like, why are you losing your mind over me asking questions about a tortoise when it's literally my job? I don't know. Why did this guy just took one of our carts, drove it across the parking lot, and then why did that happen? I don't know. Okay. Anyways, back to my crap story. My manager comes back after like 5 minutes. And she's like, yeah, she was crazy. Basically, what my manager was telling her was that it's my job to ask questions to make sure that the animal goes to a good home. And actually, I'm gonna speak from my manager's point of view. Stop staring at me. Oh my god. Okay, I'm gonna pretend I am my manager. And when I say she, I'm talking about me. Just by the way. Because I'm gonna get confused when I'm rewatching this. Anyways, I'm a manager right now. Okay, we got it. We're on the same mindset. Actually, she's just doing her job, making sure that the animal is going to a good home. Also, she's the one that brings in the veggies for the animals, so she's really passionate about animals, and she just wants to make sure that they're going to a good home. She's just doing her job. She's really great. She knows what she's doing. All that. Okay, back to my perspective. My manager was like, you're amazing. Thank you. And I was just like, I'm about to tear up because, like, my manager, listen, I worked at Walmart before this, and I did not even know my managers. Everybody quit after like 2 weeks. There were constantly new people, new managers, new like owners of that store. I don't know what was going on there, but my managers did not have my back, like, ever, because I didn't even know who they were because they got switched every freaking 2 weeks. I don't know. But here, the whole like culture of working here is so different because, I mean, I know it's different, but why are you staring at me? You don't have to, ma'am. Anyways, the whole I can't speak. This lady is just like staring right at me. Okay. The whole culture of this work is different, and I know that it's different from store to store because I've been on Reddit and I've seen people say that like their managers are evil. I do not have one bad manager that would side with a customer over me. I'm just saying, working here has been insane. Can you please get out of your car instead of just staring at me? Yeah, I love that. Living my best life with my managers, actually having my back for once, which is not something that I'm used to at all. Very rare thing for me. Anyways, I will be going to work now. Just by the way, this is going to be a series. This is going to be my first part, probably. I already have a second part up already, I believe. So I'm just going to add that one as a part 2. because I don't know. Like in that part, I didn't even know I was gonna make a series because we didn't have that much crazy people. But since I'm working a lot more, I'm having a lot more crazy people. So I figured I'm just gonna make this an entire series. Just go all out. Honestly, it's probably gonna take over my channel because I just have so many stories of crazy people. But it's fine. That's just how it's gonna be. I'm gonna be pet store crazy story girl on YouTube for right now until I find something else to do with my life. She's still just staring at me in her car. I'm gonna go to work. I'll see y'all next week. Have a good Wednesday, have a good Friday, have a good... Did you hear me? I just skipped Thursday. Oh, update on my life. I'm allergic to acetaminophen. I don't know if that's how you say it, but I'm allergic to it. So that's a really fun thing that I found out this week. It's really great. I would recommend it. 10 out of 10. Just become like allergic to basic medication out of nowhere for no reason. It's great. Anyways, have a good Wednesday. Have a good Thursday. Have a good Friday. Have a good week. Have a good weekend. And I'll see y'all next week. Bye.